All right, another quick video. Wanted to show the Eonon head unit because a lot of people have been asking and are interested in upgrading their head units in the L322. Again, this is a 2004, so the information in this video applies to a 03 to 05 model HSE L322 Range Rover. So what you're looking at there is an Eonon head unit. This was brand new in their latest as per about 6 or 7 months ago. They change fairly frequently. The basic connections to them don't change, but the Android version and some other small features do change on them. So what's awesome about these units, real quick, is they interface with the existing BM53 OEM radio unit, which is in the trunk, and I'll show you that in a few minutes here. But it uses the original, like I said, the BM53 radio, which interfaces with the factory Harman Kardon Logic 7 amplifier setup, speakers, and subwoofer. So there are two amplifiers. There's a primary which handles the rear channels, and there's a secondary which handles the front left and right channels and the subwoofer. And on board, one of those is a DSP, and then there's the BM53 radio. So all of that is retained. You you use this for your navigation. And what we did is we even bought an adapter cable, and we interfaced with a GPS antenna that's integrated into the rear quarter panel windows, I believe. So we didn't even need to run the GPS receiver that came with us. We just used everything that was already built into the car. So it's really neat. I have some royalty-free, no copyright music here I'll play. You can sort of get to listen to it the best you can over the phone. So as you can see, even the steering wheel mounted controls are perfectly interfaced with it. We didn't have to add anything else to get these to work with it. Basically, you buy the unit itself, and you buy a harness that handles all the connections. So with that, I'm going to move to the back, and I'm going to show you a brief overview of what the wiring would need to be for this to work. So in the back here, let's get into the radio compartment. This is just the driver's side rear quarter panel area. So let's pull that up there and open that. And here you have the factory setup. Ignore the switch, that's aftermarket. That's in case you're wondering and saw my my video on how to do a second battery install. I haven't done the second part of that, but that will talk about the bidirectional relay down there. That's a switch to manually connect both batteries. And then if you were to look in there, you would be able to see somewhere nestled under there is the actual battery disconnect. But onto the radio system. So the factory BM53 is right down there. Those are pretty common. It's BM53 or BM54 depending on whether they're a North American spec or European spec. For North America, where I am, that's BM53. And then this is your secondary Harman Kardon Logic 7 amplifier. Like I said, that handles the rear channels. It's a little warm, I've been using it. And then up here, there is your subwoofer and then your secondary amplifier. And on your secondary amplifier, you have it powers the subwoofer and the front left and right channels. Now all of those amplifiers are already pre-factory wired into all like 12 or however many speakers there are. All of the speakers work like they should, they sound like they should. The only thing the Eonon interfaces with is dumps the stereo left and right channels into the system. The system uses the DSP, figures it all out, and outputs it to all the speakers, and it sounds perfect. Now, one quick note. This is a factory GPS system. This is not just an optical drive. Inside of here, there's actually a computer, and there's a little gyro in there and some other brains in there as well. If you were to disconnect this, you wouldn't see anything on your head unit on the LCD display. Whether you're using navigation or not, you would not see anything on the factory display without this plugged in. So even though on the Eonon you don't use this optical disc and the GPS storage on here for the actual navigation, you still need to keep this plugged in for the overall system to work. There are some electrical linkages between the two, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Now with that said, I think I even removed the disc from here because you don't even need it. So all of that is something to keep in mind. And then if you look back here on that rear quarter panel, or whatever you want to call it, C/D pillar area, you see these lines in here. My understanding is some of these lines are for the GPS receiver. And so if we go back down here and I show you under here, one of these connections up here, it might be this one right here, one of these is for the GPS receiver, the GPS antenna in the window, and all we did is we got an adapter and then we ran a new wire all the way up to the front to the Eonon head unit and connected it into the factory GPS antenna. So it's a really nice, clever install that kind of rivals what you get from the OEM. Here's just a random connector. I think this is for the factory television receiver option, which we're not using, but the I don't remember if it's like SMT or something else, what the connector's called. That's what it looks like, if I can get it to focus a little bit. The GPS antenna looked identical to that little connector right there. And we just got little adapters for like $6, $7 off Amazon. So with that said, let me give you just a very quick overview of what you would need to do wiring to get all this done. So first of all, you would, like I said, just take this panel off. Anyone can do that. The next thing you would do is you would take this panel off of here to get to the subwoofer, and then you would start running wires up through there. And to do that, you would just take off two of these, one of those connectors up there, one up here, and then take that back tie down, cargo cover tie down point off, and this whole thing would basically slip up from the bottom. You would take this cargo area spare tire cover out. I think there's some nuts under there. This whole thing would angle out and then slot down. Now, it gets tricky when you get inside, but inside what you would do is, the best thing to do would be to take both of the rear seats off. There are probably some other videos or some other information on how to do that. Let me go ahead and put these seats down. To do it, all you would do is basically take off that bolt on one side, that on the other side, and then on the front, facing forward, there's another bolt here. Take those 4 bolts out, lift the entire seat out, and get it out. Careful not to scratch the car. Next thing, to get these bolsters out, a lot of people end up breaking these, so I'm going to give you a quick tip on how to do that. So up here on this C or B or whatever it is pillar, what you need to do to get those leather bolsters out is go way up here where it says airbag, reach in behind this weather stripping, grab this, and pop this unit straight out. There are 2 fixing clips up here, and you just pop them straight out. And when you do that, the top is loose, and then it just slots straight up. Once you angle it out, it slots straight up and then hangs loose. And attached to this bolster, there are 2 plastic pieces that are bolted into the back underneath this trim cover, this trim piece right here. A lot of people are not aware of those 2 bolts that secure this piece, and then they just lift it up from the bottom here, like, however, I'm not going to do it, I don't want to break it. They lift it up from the bottom and then pry it and then break those 2 things. So now you know the proper way to take that bolster off is to take this piece off, lift out straight out towards the passenger side from there, and then angle it out and slot it straight up, get to those 2 bolts up here, and then this whole thing, you can angle it out and then lift it straight up. Once you've done that and you have the seats removed, all you would do is you would take this out. It'll be self-explanatory how to get that out once you get this bolster off. Pull out those pieces, take out the front seat. You would take out this B-pillar over here in much the same way. You would pop it out of the top, and then you would pop it out of the bottom. It's with fixing clips. And then at the bottom, down under here, there's this this big plastic piece. You would take that all out from there. Now, once you get all of these off, there's a channel that runs underneath here, and in that channel you would take the long auxiliary harness that you would buy from Eonon, and you would run it all the way up to the front. I'll give you a quick preview of what it looks like in the front. Let me put the seat down real quick. All right, then when you go to the front, you would do the exact same thing. That bottom bolster piece comes off. That's all one piece. You would pull that off. It just goes straight up, and then there are clips. You got to line them up and push them back when you're done. And then in the front, to get this piece off, all you got to do is you got to take a pry tool, get in here, and this dead pedal section pops right up, and there's a bolt underneath of it. You get that bolt underneath of it, and then this over here, this piece actually pops straight out, right, kind of like that. You can see what it looks like right there. And then there might be a bolt back in there as well, but you would, let me just put this back real quick, and then this whole thing would come out. You would open your hood, you would pop that open and hold the latch open while you slide this whole thing out. And then there are probably a lot of videos out there on how to get these pieces off. Basically, you snap this plate straight out, and then there are Torx bolts to get that out and to get that out, and you got to pop that out before you get all the bolts out. All right, so once you get all of that out, you run the cable all the way to the front, and what we did is we snuck it behind the dashboard along a HVAC duct. There's an air duct that supplies the left and right and the center vents, and we sort of snake the harness all the way back through there. You have to take this top cover off as well, and then once you get the harness all the way to the front, you can connect it into that. Now, there is a factory holder for this thing that holds the factory head unit, and it basically, you can slot this right in with some very minimal modifications. So you just need to do a little dremeling to cut it out, and that's like, if you're capable of doing the rest of this project, don't be afraid of cutting into the plastic to get this in here. It's not a big deal at all to do that, but that's basically the rest of the thing that you need to do. And that is a basic overview of the process that you need to do to install an Eonon. I think it's a really great upgrade. It's really easy to do, and don't be afraid of it. It really kind of breathes new life into a car that's almost 20 years old now. So again, just a brief overview. If you have any questions, drop them into the comments, and thanks for watching. Bye.